Mr. Manspeaker.
I just, when you called on me earlier, I'd forgotten what I was going to say, but I was not indicating that there was any foul play. I just get concerned as somebody who has to put his name on the ballot and run under my name for elected office. If folks want to interact and dialogue about this process, we have names attached to the things that are introduced to us, only because I think it gives it more validity. And there has been concern raised about this process thus far, so we want to do anything we possibly can to avoid those concerns. I was not placing that on your doorstep, but if history is any indicator, we do need to be vigilant about how these funds are being spent. I was the one who, for the last year, has complained about roads that I didn't necessarily feel were in the best interest of the county and the city to develop, specifically because other roads had been developed in the interim. So it goes to the 10, 20, 15-year issue of how can we predict what needs to happen 15 years from now? I've got concerns that if I throw, 12th Street is in dire need of repair right now. Huntoon is not so bad, but if I throw them in with the mixer here, when's to say they get fixed? Because they need to be fixed right now. And so my concern becomes, is it 18 years from now? Is it 5 years from now? I don't have any assurance. I don't feel that I can dutifully go back to my constituents and say, look what a great deal we got out of this, because I don't know how to convey to them when it's going to happen. So these are just my hesitations. And then my other question would be, we're underneath where it says county projects, is that hands off? We don't have any say over that since it's out in the county, or?
I'm sorry, I'm thinking the wrong side all the time. Mr. Colson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilman Manspeaker. I think you could make a case that we really don't have anything to say over what the county does, but we do have the ability to say that what they're doing and how much they're doing it for has a potential impact on what we would like to see done. So you can certainly make suggestions in terms of these projects that while you may support the project, you think that's too much money for that. You have what the county is really looking for, and I know Councilor Eckert and Commissioner Cook are here this evening. I believe I saw Mr. Vlock in the audience also. They're certainly available to answer any questions that you might have as to what the intent is. You know, if I could, the comments that are being made here are very good, and I realize that sometimes I get a little bit defensive and personal, and I apologize for that. That's my parents' fault. But I think the issue brought up about the CIP and the project information, we will bring back to this body, along with the resolution, a much more expanded version of information about the project, why, what it looks like. I think we could work with the county to identify some type of prioritization list based on certain assumptions that we think that we're being directed to bring forward, understanding that some of these issues, if you're waiting for 18 months for something that needs, or 18 years for something that needs to be done next year, maybe we need to take another look at how to do it. We can't just snap our fingers and make things happen, but you can borrow money. And I know that's anathema, but we are professional financial people. That's what we do. We always are seeking the best solution given all of the alternatives and all of the resources that are available to us. And when we look at this, we will come back and say, this is how we project, or this is how we project the revenue to flow, and this is our recommendation going forward. But as we bring this document back, we will bring back the best work that we can in terms of the specific projects and what it looks like, similar to a CIP, even better than the CIP, because we want to make that better. And also our ideas as to how, in working with the county, as to how the prioritization and the cash flow would work.
Mr. Manspeaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, as the receiving end of, I'm too parochial with my district, which I get quite often from you all and from others, I will say there's only one thing I'm after with this proposal, and that's equity. And the equity is not for District 6 members, it's for all of Shawnee County. So the projects that we are doing are equally serving everyone as best as we possibly can. I think that's where an infill sidewalk line item makes sense, though it wasn't, numbers were never batted around. The argument was, we have neglected our city's core when it comes to infrastructure like sidewalks, curbs and gutters, crosswalks, all of those types of enhancements that need to be made, but the street doesn't necessarily need to be done. So I think that it's good that we have those on there. My main concern is time and it's equity. And it's that we're not doing, one project that benefits a small few when we could be doing projects that benefit the entire county. Thank you.
Okay. In the spirit of time and equity, I suggest we go to our, those who signed up for public comment. And if council's in agreement, the first person is Jim Mullins. And on all these speakers, you have the 4 minutes and the lights go on after 3 minutes, and then the fourth is the red light. Mr. Mullins.
I appreciate you telling me about the 4 minutes, so I hope it hadn't just started yet, because I wanted to make sure that everybody didn't get more than 4 minutes. Because last time we went before the county commission, there was people that got on there for 20, 30 minutes. So anyway, I know that some of the things that I'm seeing and listening to you all is that you're very concerned about the projects and the amount of money and this project going forward. And I think that's good, but since this is the way I understand this is probably going to be on the November 2014 ballot, the way this is probably going to go down. This body, I believe, should split the items into 2 different resolutions, okay? And one of them would be economic development, and the rest of it could be the other projects. My reasoning is that you will be putting at risk, if you don't split them, you'll be putting the zoo and the expo center at risk, because I will, in my group, Americans for Prosperity, we will work very hard to defeat the overall project. However, if it is split, we will not do anything but work against the economic development. The economic development monies have not been effective by any measure. It's not popular with the electorate, not transparent or accountable. Having 2 resolutions is not a problem, but let the measures stand on their own, okay? Don't sacrifice the zoo and the expo projects and let them fail because of economic development. The thing that I think that a lot of people forget, I'm watching my time here, so I'll make sure I'm on it, is in 2001, the federal government passed an act called the FAIR Act. And basically what it was to make every federal agency at every location make a determination every year, take an inventory of every function of government that they do, that they either be chosen as a inherently governmental, or could it be doing something in the yellow pages? We in Americans for Prosperity, myself personally, don't believe that the city and the county should be in the business of economic development. Should be a private function, people do it, but yet we're taking $5 million a year. We're putting it into an organization called JADO, and JADO is given it to a contractor called Topeka, and Topeka will not let us know how they really are spending the money. Though there's no transparency and accountability in what they're doing. And I think there needs to be. And so what I'm sharing with you is that I will personally, and I'll make a high recommendation to our staff people that we will push hard if these things are not split. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mullins. The second person to speak is Andy Fry. Mr. Fry.
Good evening, Mayor Wolgast and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. The county sales tax is an opportunity to listen to what the citizens want and to help shape the city. County sales tax is an excellent opportunity to complete the Topeka and Shawnee County's bikeways and pedestrian trail systems, as laid out in the Bikeways, Greenways, Trails Plan. I had the opportunity to attend the library public forum a month or two back, and there was quite a bit of mention of the quality of life projects, and specifically the bikeways projects from the members of the public. I also participated in the city's public survey of 544 citizens, in which the bikeways came in second in terms of prioritization of items supported. There were 44.8% of those that voted supported the bikeways, above other items that were that are currently in the county's potential budget for the sales tax. Finally, I participated in the County Parks and Rec master plan public forums that they held a couple months back, and again there was quite a bit of mention of the pedestrian trails, the bicycling trails, and connecting the parks at those meetings by the public. In addition, Leon Youngers of Pro Consultants, who spoke to the County Commission a week or two ago, noted that it was of higher importance to the county's citizens to have the trails completed and connecting the parks. From my perspective as a casual observer, it appears that bikeways and trails are a high priority to the citizens of Shawnee County and Topeka. And I would encourage the council to listen to the citizens of Topeka as they have an outcry for safe, happy, and a healthy community through those bikeways and trails. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. The next person to speak is Kevin Cook, Commissioner Cook. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you this evening. The proposed resolution from the Shawnee County Commission truly does represent democracy in action. As the elected representatives of our respective constituents, this is perhaps one of the most pure forms of democracy, in that the proposed document that we have is not actually a tax that's imposed upon anyone. It merely represents the thoughts, ideas, and backgrounds from our different neighborhoods, whether in the city or in the county. It's actually up to the electorate as to whether or not the tax is imposed or not. If the tax is imposed, those projects go forward. If the tax is not imposed, we either scrap all plans towards a future sales tax or come back to this point of discussion. And I think that's really what's important, capturing both the spirit of both the city and the county. Speaking as a member of the Shawnee County Commission, I can tell you that I put great deference into the work of our Public Works Director, Mr. Vlock, who's here this evening, as well as Mr. Whitaker from the city. In looking over the resolution, one of the things that struck me was equity, as described by Mr. Manspeaker, and that you had equity between the county projects and the city projects of equal value. And I think those are things that are important, equity and equality, in looking at those projects. Do they benefit the whole? And so as we move forward, I would just ask the council to keep those things in mind as to relying on the expertise of our public works directors. They often have that view of what the whole looks like and what the long-range needs are for their respective departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next is Rich Eckert. Mr. Eckert. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor. I'm just really here to ask any questions you might have of the technical drafter of the law, the documents that you have in front of you. I do want to say that we need to remember that we build upon the work of others. And this city council in 2003 and the county commission back then need to be thanked, because under any measure of success, the sales tax ballot question that we currently have works, and it works very well. And I'm confident that the next one will be the same way. Mr. Schmidt, Councilman Schmidt, I think you're exactly right. What we're doing now is Offer, 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 and hopefully we get to acceptance. No hard feelings either way. You don't like what we did, we're not personal about it. Send us what you think, and then we'll reflect upon that. Just listing, I do want to say a couple things tonight. I don't think it's a quagmire. This is just a math problem. And we have to get a calculators out, because that's what I've been doing for the last 3 months. We got to pick the years, and then we make the math work. Not every project can be done that we've thought about. The county has already cut a couple that have never come to the light of day. But we rely upon our public works to tell us what's important. So this is just a math problem, and we need to sharpen our pencils and get to it. I would like to note one thing, and this is just a little bit different. You recently had your own city sales tax, and I know that you're behind it and you want it to pass, and you do things that make it necessary to pass. This vote is going to be a little bit different than that, in that somewhere between 35 and 40% of the voters do not live inside the city limits of Topeka. We just need to reflect upon that in our thinking. I'm not here to advise you one way or the other what to do with that, but let's not forget that it needs people from outside the city limits voting on it as well. And then finally, I would like to note that to get this on in November, we have to be ready to roll early August to get it on the ballot. So we don't have an unlimited amount of time to debate this, and I know that you only meet so many times and we only meet so many times, but we need to know that first week in August, perhaps that second week in August, what we can put on a ballot, and then we're really up against the wall. So with that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. You offered to answer, our council members, are there questions for Mr. Eckert? Ms. Ziller?
At some point, I've got some questions, should I?
For Mr. Eckert?
Yes.
Okay.
I think this is for Mr. Eckert. I wanted to know how you all envisioned calendaring the proposal that you sent over. Can you share that?
What do you mean by calendaring?
Which projects would be done, let's say, in the first 5 to 7 years? Which ones would remain till later?
Well, the important thing to do is get the list done. Until we have the list done, it's too hard to judge how to calendar this. I agree with Mr. Colson in that. We need to concentrate on what we agree on, and then, and I can tell you, because I was one of the very few that are standing here that was around when we did the original Attachment A in 2003, we let the public works experts do that. If you look at that Attachment A, that's all infrastructure. It had nothing to do with the economic development component. It was the infrastructure. So the two public works entities got together and they did it. It was their recommendation. It was brought forth between both bodies, voted on and agreed. And on Attachment A, we've had more debate tonight than we did in 2003 about Attachment A.
If I may, it would seem that it's more than just an infrastructure decision, for instance, whether under the proposals that you had and that Councilman Schmidt has, for instance, whether the Expo Center is done if let's say we went with that list, if the Expo Center is done in the first 5 years of the plan, that means that all the street projects would wait. And if people conversely wanted to get the street projects done first, it would mean that the Expo Center would wait until perhaps year 7, let's just say. In the discussions that the county has had, is that negotiable?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Seeing none? Thank you very much for coming over. Next speaker is Jim Parrish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
City Manager, members of the council, my name is Jim Parrish. I am the chair of Future Forward. Future Forward is a 501c3 organization designed to help put together a campaign to pass this question that is ultimately going to be adopted by the city and the county through its agreement. And more than a year ago, Future Forward wasn't even called that. We were gathering together, as we have the constitutional right, if not duty, to do, to talk about the future of this county and the future of economic development in this county and the future of the infrastructure projects in this county. And in doing so, we began to initiate a discussion that's gone on for many, many months so that people will become more and better informed regarding what this vote is all about, because it is a vote. It's a vote of the people to decide whether or not to extend the half-cent sales tax. I agree with Mr. Eckert that it has been wildly successful from an infrastructure standpoint and from an economic development standpoint. We don't have time tonight to debate that question, but if you assume that it has been successful and you want it to go forward, I think you're all doing the right thing by looking at these various projects. I, Mr. Manspeaker, was the author of the memo that said we agree. We agree, meaning those among us agree to retract our initial position, which was to advocate for 20 years, to advocate that 1/3 of the revenue from the half-cent sales tax be allocated to economic development and not a set amount, and to advocate that the election be held in April and not November. I don't have time in 4 minutes to discuss each one of those, but we wanted the election to be held in April and not November so that we would have the time to tell the story about the success of the infrastructure projects and the economic development projects that have occurred as a result of this tax. I was around and was involved in the initial campaign years ago. Then again, as it was renewed in 2004, was chair of the campaign that helped with the successful election by the people for a half-cent sales tax for economic development and infrastructure. And also, just incidentally, in 2009, when we initiated a Fix Our Streets proposal to help get the city the money it needed to take care of a disastrous street program that had been ignored and left to deteriorate. I have volunteered reluctantly to take on that role this year, to be involved in this campaign, but we can't have a campaign until we have a question. We can't have a question until we advocate the elements of that question that we would push for. We pushed for 20 years, we pushed for 1/3. The elected officials disagreed. The city disagreed, the county disagreed. So in our meeting following that county decision, we said, we agree to a November election time frame. That means we, those among us on this committee. We support a time frame of 16 years, not 15 years, and we would push for an extra year so we could fit in these extra projects. I won't have time in 5 seconds to say the rest of what I've got to say unless you give me more.
Yes, Ms. Everhart? Ms. Everhart moved to extend. Mr. Manspeaker seconds.
3 minutes.
3 minutes, all right. All those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no.
We have 8 yes.
8 having voted yes, please continue.
Thank you, everyone. We looked at the list of projects, and we know that it is the experts that work for the city and the experts that work for the county who know best which infrastructure projects are necessary. But we do drive around, and we do have some experience. And we thought that in our deliberations that the removal of that 37th Street project was probably not a good idea if we could figure out a way to afford it. So we decided amongst us that we would like to advocate that that be put back in. We also decided amongst us that we would advocate that the improvement to 29th Street from Fairlawn to Wanamaker be included in the list. We haven't done all the math. We don't know all of the details of the numbers that are necessary to make all this work, but we thought of a couple other things that we thought ought to be in the question. One is some acknowledgement that we implement the county trails program, and so we just threw a few dollars at that in our proposal in the half an hour we had to meet and talk about it. And we also thought that although $45 million may be necessary, as the county says it is, for the improvement and the renovation and the maintenance of the expo center, that we ought to take a look at an event center for downtown Topeka. So we asked that a little bit of money be put in for planning and development of that. just so that we aren't blinded by the possibility that we might put something downtown that would help enhance all the other progress we've made to downtown improvements lately. That is what we are saying in our memo, what we have said in our meeting, and we wanted to convey to each of you elected officials and to the county elected officials as well. We have, and we represent, not Americans for Prosperity with however much money they have, but we do have money that we have raised for the adoption of this question from private individuals and from businesses that represent a broad range of individuals in this county who have at stake, who consider the health and well-being of Shawnee County to be very important for them and their businesses, and I'm one of them. So we're not just an isolated group of people out there trying to pretend like we're public elected officials, but we are advocates, and we are advocates for what we believe to be in the good of this county and for the benefit of this county and the city of Topeka. I'd yield for questions, Mr. Mayor.
Are there
for our-
questions for Mr. Parrish? Seeing none, thank you very much for your comments, providing us with your information. We need to take a short break for the changing of the tape, so we'll have a recess of approximately 10 minutes, and let's plan to be back about 5-6 minutes after. What?
If you want to make a beeline for the restroom, tell me. These are the questions that I have. Let me just kind of,
No, I need to talk to you.
I got some information from HR